Okay, welcome everybody. So no particular props except for maybe the blocks that you might want or something to sit on. I don't really have anything else in mind for props. Let's start in a child's pose. So of course, keep in mind that if child's pose isn't supportive for you today, you can be laying down, you can be seated, wherever works for you. And if you are taking child's pose, just go ahead and find your favorite variation of it, just being aware that the knees close together, you'll get a bit more of a stretch for your back. The knees wider apart, it just gives your hips and your back a little bit more space. So just sort of playing around with where that spot is for you that makes sense. And then just start to connect with your breath. And that might mean that you are changing your breath. It might mean that you're just kind of noticing how your breathing is right now. In this practice, energy flow, we're tapping into the energy of our bodies and also ambient energies like the season, the time of day, the moon phases, things like that. So just take a moment to notice yourself as you are in this physical space and how your breath may already be communicating to you about how you're feeling. And take a moment to acknowledge the land that you're on and your relationship with it. And take a moment to set any intentions that you may have for your practice. And part of that might be about listening to your body and how you're feeling in this moment around what you might need today. And if you haven't yet, please invite the deeper, more conscious Ujjayi pranayama, Ujjayi breath. So you want to think about just inhaling and exhaling in and out through the nose really steadily. So it's about even in terms of time between inhale and exhale. There's also this sort of uplifting feeling of the inhale, the ribs widen and lift. And on the exhale, there's this connection to your core and your pelvic floor, which is mostly subtle. Okay. And then just whenever that starts to bring you into some movement, just lean into that. So take your time. I'm just coming up to hands and knees to move through cat and cow. But just you may want to stay in child's pose a bit longer. It might be a different movement for you that you're starting with. Just listening to your body and your breath. And classic cat and cow is just inhaling into a little back bend shape and exhaling to curl the spine under. But there's room to circle, move side to side, shift forward and back. I like to do this with my eyes closed so that I'm really working with just what I'm feeling in the moment, what feels good in my spine, not so much about completing anything in particular. And this will eventually move up into downward dog. So when you feel ready, you can widen your hands a little bit, bring them a bit farther forward, and lift the hips up. Soften the elbows just slightly, almost imperceptibly, and hug them a little together. Keep at least a bit of a bend in your knees, and you might be, again, moving intuitively here. So bending one knee at a time is a nice way to do that. It's getting a bit of movement into the hips. Try to soften your neck and your head if you can, keeping the shoulders nice and deep into their sockets. And then let's come forward into a plank pose. You can use your knees if that's helpful. And lower all the way down to the ground. If you're not on the ground today, just stay on your hands and your knees. We'll just take a couple of cobras to warm up the lower back a little bit. If your lower back is sore, I really like the cactus arms. Just gently lifting the elbows as you rise. If you're okay to do the strange cobra, that's the one I'm going to do. So fingertips up, wrists are lifted. Press the tops of the feet down, squeeze your bum a little bit, gently engage the core, and just lift up as high as feels good. Right now, we're just warming up the back. And as you exhale, come down. Do that 2 more times. I'm hearing some little pops and cracks in my own back. And if all this is working for you, you can add a little bit of a twist. So rising up on your inhale. As you exhale, you can look to the left, maybe dip the right shoulder down. Up through center, look to the right. And if it feels good, you can add dipping that left shoulder. Just try to keep your thumb really nice and steady. So it's just a movement in the upper back. We're just going to do that one more time if it's working for you. Each side. Rising up and then all the way down to your belly, and we'll return slowly to downward dog. And actually, let's do that together. So bringing the hands beside your low ribs, roll the shoulders onto your back, hug your belly in, and then press up to your knees, and then your downward dog. Take a breath here. And then when you're ready, walk your feet to your hands, coming into a standing forward bend. And again, check in with your lower back here, especially if it is sore. The more you bend the knees, the less pressure there is on the lower back. You know, even if you can completely straighten the legs, you're not locking them, right? You can see if it feels right for you to hang down, holding opposite elbows. Fingertips could be on the ground or blocks, or you could even have elbows resting on thighs with bent knees. This is probably the gentlest place for the lower back. But listen to what feels good in your body. Your body often knows what you need. Again, movement is welcome, bending one knee at a time, or just being still and breathing is perfect too. And then slowly roll up, one vertebrae at a time. Of course, if that doesn't work for you, rise up however feels best. When you get to standing, you can do your little fidgets, whatever you need to do, just kind of finding that place where you feel grounded in your feet, connected to your breath, soft in your joints. Beautiful. Then bend your knees a little bit, reach your arms up to the sky, inhaling. And as you exhale, dive down to the earth. Halfway lift, draw your heart forward, and then step your right foot behind you. You can lower the knee down and rise up into your low lunge, reaching the arms up. And then downward facing dog. As you exhale, connect your palms, step back. And we'll take Vinyasa here, which could always be cat and cow. Okay, you can also come forward to plank, lower all the way down, or maybe it's a little push up there, on or off the knees, and then pulling through to a cobra or an upward facing dog, which is when the kneecaps are lifted and the arms are straight. And then press back to your downward dog. On your inhale, your right leg is going to rise to the sky any amount. And then step it through as you exhale. It helps to lean left a little. Pick up the right hand. Back knee can come down, reaching the arms up. Press the hips a little forward. And then come to the top of your mat. Forward bend. Halfway lift, lengthen. Exhale, melt. Bend your knees, rising all the way up to standing. And then all the way back down to the earth again. Halfway lift, draw your heart forward. Left foot steps back. Inhale, rising up, pressing the hips gently forward. And then downward facing dog. Connect the palms, step back. Come forward to plank, on or off the knees. Little push up or all the way down. Pull through to a back bend that works for you. And again, this could always be cat and cow or child's pose or downward dog. The left leg is going to rise to the sky from downward dog. Try to follow your breath. Step that foot through as you exhale. Beautiful, through your low lunge. And then forward bend at the top of your mat. Halfway lift. And soften. Bend the knees, rising all the way up. Hands to the heart. And begin again, reaching your arms up to the sky. And fold. Halfway lift. Right foot steps back. This could always be a high or a low lunge, just whatever works for you. Rising up. Downward facing dog, and take your variation of Vinyasa. Inhaling. Exhale. Inhaling into your back bend. And then downward dog. Right leg will go to the sky on your inhale. And then through. Low lunge. Beautiful. And then forward bend. Lengthen. And melt. And the knees rising all the way up. And then all the way down as you exhale. Halfway lift, lengthen. Left foot steps back. Finding your lunge. Gorgeous. Downward dog through your variation of Vinyasa. Just keeping it in the flow of your breath, whatever you're doing here. Left leg is going to rise to the sky from downward dog. And through. Inhale to rise. Beautiful. And then forward bend. Lengthen. And melt. And then the knees rising all the way up. Bring your hands together in front of your heart and just take a moment to receive that, feel that. Okay, so I'd love to go through one more time. I'm feeling for myself that my energy is a bit heavy and sun salutations can really help to just lighten things up and get them moving. But I want to offer that you move through maybe a little bit more intuitively. Maybe you're adding some shapes, maybe you're slowing down in certain areas. So just feel free to kind of play with it and sort of see what works for you, okay? So I'll be cueing lightly, but add and subtract and kind of do your thing, and I will be a little bit as well, okay? When you're ready, just enter into that flow, rising. And fold. Lengthen. Right foot will step back. Inhale. And downward dog. Through your variation of Vinyasa, just follow your breath. And then the right leg will rise from downward dog. And through. Inhale into your variation of lunge, whatever that looks like. And forward bend. Lengthen. And melt. And then the knees rising up. And on your exhale, folding back down. Lengthen. Left foot back. Inhale. And downward dog. Through your Vinyasa, whatever it looks like. Left leg will rise from downward dog. And through. Inhaling into that lunge. And then forward bend. Lengthen. And soften. Bend the knees, rising up. When you get to the top, hands at heart, or maybe over top of your heart, and just taking a moment to receive. Excuse me. Okay, so from here, let's soften the knees a little bit and reach the arms up to the sky. So it's not like a full chair pose, but just soft knees. We're going to do a little bit of a side stretch. So it's going to look a little bit like this. Okay, as you inhale, one arm reaches up and you can imagine letting that hip drop. Come through center and then let the other arm reach up as you allow that hip to drop. So you're feeling a really full release in the side waist. So inhaling one side lengthens. Exhale through center and then allowing the other side to lengthen. So again, don't worry about what this looks like. Just kind of enjoying it. Let your head move too. Okay, then when it's even on the two sides, just rise up evenly and then release your hands behind your back, interlace the fingers or grab your strap or hands on hips. Hug the elbows, lift the heart. And just stay here for a moment, really beaming your chest up to the sky. If that feels good to stay, feel free to stay or fold, allowing the fists to rise up. Knees are generously bent. You might have your body kind of resting on your thighs. And then gently allow the hands to come down the backs of your legs. Take a halfway lift and then sit your bum down and lay all the way down on your back. If you're pregnant, just lay to your side first. Take a moment to find a nice, even, neutral lower back, feet on the floor. Okay, inhale, and as you exhale, engage the pelvic floor in and up, and gather the belly button back towards the spine. So everything's kind of gathering in together. The spine stays the same. It's almost like a hollowing of the belly. And then you can lift your shoulder blades up, just adding to that a little bit, holding the back of your head with your interlaced fingers, okay? And then we'll just start with our marching. So inhaling to lift your right leg and exhaling to gently place it back down, trying to keep everything the same in the lower body. So we're just lifting one leg at a time. That's the left leg. And coming down. So I love this one because it's pretty accessible, but it's also pretty effective. Like we can feel a lot going on here. So you're breathing ujjayi into your diaphragm and you're keeping that belly kind of hollowing in and up. Yeah, and if this is feeling pretty good, pretty easy, you want to add on, you can extend your legs up and instead lower your straight leg down on your exhale. And that's just going to add some weight to the situation. Same sort of idea though, keeping the belly drawn in and up. Just nice and simple. Following the breath, it helps to really spread the toes. Really good, just activating that core, that supportive place. It should be painless in the back. Okay, and if you're feeling like you can keep flowing, we're just going to switch it up one more time, staying in the flow, bending the knees, and this time the leg goes out in front, and then the knee comes back in. Try to keep the back the same. If you need a break, of course, take a break. So I find it helpful here to inhale as the leg goes long and exhale as the knee comes in. So if you find you need to switch up your breath a little bit, that's fine. No big deal if you're doing it the other way, it'll work too. And just taking your time. Again, take a break if you need one. Yeah, I'm going to take about 2 more each side. Last one. Again, depending on your breath. And relax. You can hug the knees in, release the head, maybe rock from side to side. I also quite like happy baby after doing a little bit of core. So if that feels good for you too, go ahead and widen your knees apart, holding the soles of the feet up to the sky, just holding on to whatever's handy. So the toes, the outer feet, the ankles, that's all good. And I usually do like rocking side to side after core. It just kind of softens up the hip flexors a little bit for me. Lovely. And then let's release that. You can send the legs up to the sky, give them a little shake. Hug your knees in. Okay, option one. You can make your way through rocking and rolling back to downward dog and then move through vinyasa. Okay, if you don't want to do the vinyasa today, you can rock and roll if that's comfortable or just roll to your side, but you're going to come right up into standing forward bend. Okay, so you can add the vinyasa here if you want to. If you feel like you're not into it, you can just come right into standing forward bend at the top of your mat. And if you've been moving through your vinyasa, once you get to downward dog, just gently meet us here. Gorgeous. Yeah, and then when you get back to standing forward bend, just go ahead and rise up, and you can do that through rolling. You can do it through sweeping up, just whatever feels best for you. Okay, again, soft knees, and then come back to that little stretch that we were doing before, where we have the knees a bit bent, the arms soft up to the sky, lengthening one side of the body, softening, and then lengthening the other. So this is something that I might have done in my belly dancing days. Okay. So just allowing your hips to really move with it and kind of feeling the long lines of your body, but don't worry about what it looks like. It doesn't matter. It should feel good, especially after the core. And when that's even on the two sides, just allow your hands to drift back down by your sides and take a moment to feel and receive, perhaps especially just that sense of stability that you might be noticing around your core. Beautiful. Then reach your arms up. Exhale, dive down to the earth. Halfway lift and step your right foot back. We're coming into a high lunge from here. So bend the knee, but don't land it on the ground. Hug the inner thighs together and roll up from here. Okay, think of squaring your hips, drawing the tailbone down and working your back leg towards straight. You can reach your arms up and see how that feels, just getting nice and long. And then take your left hand around behind your back, and you can hold your sacrum, or you can kind of wrap the arm around your back, and then hold onto the back of your skull with your right hand, lengthen up and lean back any amount. Really press into the mound of the right foot. You can slide your hand a little farther down your leg if you have the space today for that back bend. Keep hugging those inner thighs together. Beautiful. Inhale, and then gently unwind. Bring your right hand all the way off your mat to the right, left arm open to the sky. So it's a nice open twist. Keep hugging the inner thighs together. You might find you want to lengthen the stance a little bit, inch that back foot a bit farther back. You can put your knee down if you need to. Okay, if you can, keep it lifted. Hug those inner thighs, open the chest. One more breath, Ujjayi, if you can. Okay, and then from here, we're going to inhale and then exhale and bring the right hand down as well. But your hands are kind of pointed off to the right. So your right hand is still off your mat to the right. Left hand is kind of on the other corner of the mat. And we're going to straighten the front leg as much as we can. So it's kind of like pyramid pose, but you're a little bit shifted to the side with your hands. Drawing your hips back and melting your heart. Don't be afraid to use the blocks if they're helpful here. And you can play a little bit with the angle of your legs. So drawing the left hip back will probably give you something nice and juicy here. You guys all look great. Just in case there's any confusion, I'll do it facing the front. So here's how the angle is. Your legs are the same as they would be in, I guess, technically strange pyramid because your back heel is lifted, but your hands are off to the side. Yeah, and you can kind of wiggle your hips a little bit and just find that place that feels nice and juicy for you. Awesome. Okay, inhale. And then when you're ready, three-legged downward facing dog. So you're going to place your hands and then send your left leg back and up into the sky behind you and open up your hips. Totally fine to do this with your right knee down if you need to. This in and of itself is a lovely pose. Feel free to just enjoy this, okay? If you're comfortable today, you can try Wild Thing. So the right hand would come a little bit farther forward. Left hand lands behind you. Right leg stays straight. And we're turning the heart open to the sky. Optionally holding the back of the skull with the left hand. Thinking really long, lifting up out of that bottom shoulder. And then returning to downward dog when you're ready. And then any variation of a vinyasa and or a little child's pose just to reset there. Nice. And then wherever you are, I'll just invite you to inhale through your nose, exhale out your mouth, maybe even make some sound. And then let's meet in downward dog, or this will work just as well on hands and knees. So if your wrists are getting a little tired, or if you just need a break from downward dog, bring your knees down. And then take your right leg up into the sky, again, just as high as feels good. We're going to keep the knee bent, bring the knee in towards the chest, optionally shoulders over the wrists. Then the knee opens to the right and back up to the sky. So it's a big circle with the hip, and you can add the plank if you want a little bit more core shoulders with this. So coming forward as you inhale, knee opens to the right, and then looping back to the sky. One more time. Send that leg nice and high to the sky on your inhale, and then step it through for warrior two. So the foot lands between the hands, back heel spins down, arms rise up and open. Front heel in line with the back arch roughly, knee over the ankle, sides of the waist long, shoulders soft. I find it can really help to turn the arms up, the palms up, to help soften the shoulders even more if you're finding they're a bit tight today. And just take a moment to feel the warriorness of warrior two. Rise up and lean back into exalted. And you can again hold the back of your skull if you like, hugging the elbow in and up and just getting a little more shoulder into it as you lean back. Some of you might also like a half bind here, wrapping the left arm around the lower back. Straighten that front leg. Lean back even a little bit more. Then bend the knee again and come into side angle. So bring your right elbow to your thigh. You can keep the half bind if that works for you. That's one variation of side angle. The left arm is around behind you and the shoulder is wrapping back. Otherwise, you can have hand on hip, arm up to the sky, or even alongside your ear. Think of pointing the tailbone down, pressing the hips a little bit forward, just getting nice and long with your left side waist and your right side waist too. Okay, if you want to change this up a little bit, you can bring your right hand down on the inside of the leg. That's going to make this a little bit more about hip opening, okay? So you're kind of snuggling in a little bit deeper. Your hand could be on a block as well. And some of you might find that a bind is accessible. You can lean right down, getting your armpit in line with your thigh, lining up your hands, and then reopening your chest towards the sky and kind of leaning back a little bit. You guys are doing great. Let's inhale one more time. And then as you exhale, unwind and bring your back knee down to the earth. That's it. Take your left hand nice and wide, right arm open to the sky. So this is option one. Okay, so those of you that are feeling like this is good, this is where I want to be, that's perfect. You can stay right here. I'm just going to give those of you wanting a challenge a little bit more of a challenge today. Okay, so if you're into that, left hand is going to place just ahead of the shoulder, back knee picks up, hips pick up a little bit. Start to walk your right foot along the long edge until you can get the outer arch of your left foot down. You can stay here or you can line up your feet for a side plank. Lifting up out of the bottom shoulder. Lifting your hips up nice and high, almost like a curve. And then you can take this into wild thing, letting the foot come behind you, holding the back of the skull. Here's the really challenging part. We inhale and then bring that right foot all the way back where we started into that long lunge. Super fun, right? And then bring your hands down wherever you are. Pick up that back knee if it's down. We'll step forward to the top of the mat. Feel free to take a couple hops if you need, or maybe it's just one. Lengthen halfway. Exhale to melt. And I'm going to offer a rest either in forward bend or squat. So if you like squat, if it's a nice comfortable one for you to come into, you can widen your knees and bring your hands to your heart. For some of us, it's great. For others, it's like, nah, it's a really uncomfortable pose. So feel free to take forward bend. If not, this is just a little rest moment. Taking maybe 3 breaths just to come back to yourself. And then return to standing forward bend if you're not there already. Reparallel the feet. Take a halfway lift, and as you exhale, step your left foot behind you. Keep the knee lifted, but bend it. Hug those inner thighs and rise up into your high lunge. Tailbone down, hugging the inner thighs. Work that back leg towards straight. Arms rise, and just take a moment to find the pose. We don't often think of a lunge as a balancing pose, but it is, especially if you close your eyes. You'll find out that it's a balancing pose. So we got to really hug those inner thighs. Outer thighs are kind of hugging in together. Okay, right arm can wrap around your lower back. You can hold your sacrum, see what works for you. And then hold the back of the skull with the left hand, hugging the elbow in, scooping it up, and thinking about a back bend. You don't have to actually go anywhere. But imagine the back bend starting from the ball of your left foot, right up through your elbow. Inhale, and then gently unwind the hands. Bring the left hand right off your mat. Okay, and the right arm up to the sky. So it's a nice open twist. Your back knee can come down. Try to keep it lifted if you can. Hug the shoulders onto the back. This works well on fingertips. I'm on palm. Either is fine. Keep hugging those inner thighs a bit. Nice open chest. Inhale, and then bring your right hand down so that your hands are pointing off on the corner. And I like both hands up on fingertips for this one, or on blocks works too. And then kind of a cat stretch, straightening your front leg. Yeah, so by cat stretch, I meant the way a cat stretches, not the rounded spine of the cat. Okay, just keep your spine nice and neutral. Pull your right hip back a little bit, let your heart melt. You can wriggle your hips a little bit, see if it feels good to draw your right hip back more, lean your hips a little to one side or another. I'm hoping this feels good. Keep your back heel nice and lifted. Not too much weight on your hands. They're kind of reaching forward. Beautiful. And when that feels complete for you, 3-legged downward facing dog. So place your hands again to either side of your front leg. And that right leg is going to go back and up into the sky behind you and allow the hips to open. And again, this is a lovely pose just in and of itself, 3-legged downward facing dog. You're more than welcome to stay here, or you can come into wild thing. I like to just walk my left hand a little bit forward, let the ball of the foot land, coming onto the outer arch of the right foot, and reaching the right arm up, maybe holding the back of the skull. Straight left leg, heart to the sky. And then returning to downward dog, take your vinyasa or your rest in downward dog or child's pose. Just give yourself a moment to do a little reset. Sometimes we have lots of energy for vinyasas. Sometimes we find we need a little more recovery in between. Just take that moment to kind of check in with yourself, see what you might need. Beautiful. And I would love for you to come up to a seat. Most of you are in child's pose already. We are going to complete the sequence, but let's just give our wrists a little moment of love first, okay? So spread the fingers nice and wide as you inhale. And as you exhale, curl the fist down into a little paw. And then just do that a couple more times. So spreading the fingers really nice and wide. And then the little paw turns down so we get that nice stretch at the back of the wrists. This is really good wrist medicine if you're feeling like your wrists are a little bit sensitive. And we know that we might be using them a little bit more today. So just giving them a bit of love. Just one more. Maybe holding that little stretch paw position. And then release that, and you can circle the wrist. You can give them a little shake if you like. And then let's come back into our downward dog, or again, hands and knees will work just as well for the next little part here. Okay, the left leg is going to rise up to the sky again, as high as you want. And then on an exhale, bring the knee into the chest, maybe come forward to plank. The knee opens out to the left side and then back up to the sky. 2 more of those big circles, optional with the planks. Last one. Beautiful. And then we'll step through to warrior 2. So bringing that foot in between your hands, spin the back heel down, and do a little windmill up. Settling into the pose, knee over the ankle, hips relatively level, ribs gently drawing in, shoulders soft. And again, if it helps to turn the palms up, go ahead and do that. Finding your ujjayi again. Yeah, and everybody could breathe a little bit more into the back, into the lower back. Yeah, that's it, Danielle. Good, and then right hand to the back leg, reaching up and back into exalted. And you can take a hold of the back of your skull if that works for your shoulder. Hug the elbow in and up. And if you want to try that half bind, you're just kind of sneaking the right arm around your lower back. Getting that length along the left side. Then straighten your front leg so it becomes exalted triangle. So don't lock your knee, but just find that a little bit of extra length that comes in with a straight leg. Inhale, and then side angle, resting your elbow on your thigh. And if the half bind is working for you, you can absolutely keep it. Okay, pressing the elbow down and a little bit forward, hugging the shoulders onto the back, and especially with the half bind, wrapping that right arm behind you. You can absolutely have hand on hip, arm to the sky, arm over your ear, or even holding the back of the skull. Those are all great options. Okay, sometimes I like to lengthen my stance a little bit in side angle, so you can get the hips nice and low, just sort of feeling that for yourself. There's a bit of a twist of the heart open to the sky. You'll have a different experience of the pose if you want to bring the left hand down on the inside of the thigh or onto a block or the floor. That's going to deepen the hip opening a bit. And if you want to try the bind, you would bring your armpit to your thigh, wrap the arms under your thigh, and then reset. So your shoulder will come up a little bit away, hugging the shoulders onto the back and trying to turn your heart open. Try to keep your bum underneath your body, if that makes sense. Try not to stick it out too much behind you. Awesome. Inhale, and then gently unwind what you've got going on. Bring your back knee down. Take your right fingertips or palm right off the mat and open your left arm to the sky. And just take a moment to check out how this is feeling for you today. And again, you can stay right here, or if you want a little bit more challenge, probably if you did it on the first side, you should do it here as well. So the right hand is going to come just a little bit ahead of the shoulder. Back knee lifts, bum lifts a bit, left hand onto the hip. I'm shortening my stance slightly here. Walking the left foot along the long edge, finding the outer arch. This is a great variation of side angle, not side angle, side plank. That's what this pose is called. You can stack the feet. Try to really lift your ankle away from the mat. Think of a side bend. Maybe sneak that left foot around behind you and turn your heart a bit more up to the sky. You can hold the back of your skull there. Inhale, and then see if you can bring your foot all the way back up to the top of the mat. Woo, nice work, you guys. And then you can hop that back foot up to the top of the mat, coming into standing forward bend. Again, lengthening the heart and folding, just resting in your forward bend, or you can come into a squat again if that feels like a good place for you to catch your breath and just reconnect a little bit. Okay, those of you that have quite a lot of energy to work with, you're invited to take one last vinyasa. So you can lift your bum back up, parallel your feet, step back and take your flow, okay? If you're not into that, just stay in your rest pose a little bit longer. Beautiful. And then we're going to meet laying on our backs. So wherever you are, just mindfully making your way to your back. So you might be in standing forward bend, downward dog, squat, wherever you are. And again, if you are pregnant, you're just going to lay on your side first rather than rolling down onto your back. Just a little precaution there. And here we are. Take a moment just to feel yourself returning to your back. Allow your breath to move down into your belly for a moment. Okay, so from here, what I'd like to do is a little bit of a play through an inversion for those of you that have the energy to do that. And those of you that are feeling like you want to stay laying on your back and just kind of chilling here, you can send your legs up to the sky, maybe with a little block underneath your bum, and just kind of receive that. Okay, otherwise, if you're wanting to add in this little inversion moment, I'll invite you to bring your mat to a wall and I'll just show you what we can do. So I'll just keep it short. I'm noticing many of you are not wanting to add the inversion. Fair enough. So we'll just take a couple of beats with it. And again, if you're laying on the back, just kind of enjoy that. So if you are coming to that inversion, if you don't have a wall, don't worry about the wall. Just join me here. You're going to come to your knees and your elbows and just loosely interlace your fingers so that they're in this kind of headstand shape, but we're not going to necessarily do headstand, okay? Elbows pressing down and apart, shoulders drawing back, and then you're going to step back into plank pose. So again, this is for those of you that are wanting a little bit more challenge today, a little bit more work, okay? So we're starting with just re-firing up the core. And then walking your feet to your elbows, and allowing your bum to rise. For now, you can let the head just release. This is dolphin downward dog, which is a wonderful beneficial inversion in and of itself. And those of you with a wall that are feeling pretty strong, pretty energetic, look at the floor, lift one leg up, hug the inner thighs, and you can take a couple of little hops. And then you can try that on the second side when you're ready. And I'm not working with a wall here, so I'm just not going to kick too far. Beautiful. And we're all going to eventually meet laying on our backs again. Those of you that were just doing that inversion with me, you can come to a child's pose for a few breaths, letting the hands rest beside your hips, shoulders drop. And then we'll make our way onto our back. So that's where many of you already are. So you can just stay right there. And then place your feet underneath your knees. Place your elbows beside your ribs. I like my heels just a little bit wider than my sit bones, so they're like hips distance apart. Lift up the toes, spread them, reconnect them. Lift the hips up, press the elbows down and apart. You can stay here or interlace your fingers underneath your body, using the length of your arms to support you. Hug your inner thighs together. Lengthen knees away from chest, chest away from knees. Bridge pose. Gently come down. Let the knees fall in or out. Take a couple breaths into your belly. And we're just going to take one more today, and then we're going to be cooling down from there. I know many of you are already feeling like you're kind of ready to rest, and that's great. I'm with you there, okay? Otherwise, we can take one more. So again, just setting up the feet if they've wandered, starting with the elbows, pressing into the heels. You do want to engage the core, but you don't need to tuck your tailbone. You can interlace your fingers, hug the inner thighs together, lengthening. We did do some prep for wheel today, so you might want to try it. If you do, you can place your hands beside your ears, hug the elbows together. I like to lower the hips quite a bit and then press onto the crown of the head. You can widen the hands even further, maybe widen the feet, and then press back up into your wheel. Relax your head, hug your inner thighs, lengthening your belly. And then when you're ready to come down, chin into chest if you're coming out of wheel. We're just rolling down from bridge or just laying your hips down. All of that is great. Knees can fall in or out. Let your hands flop open as well, and take some nice deep breaths into your belly. Okay, release your legs up to the sky. Again, I like to give them a little bit of a shape. And then we can come into a thread the needle. So you can place your feet on the mat again when you're ready, right ankle to left thigh. And then you can pick up your leg if that feels appropriate, holding on to the back of the thigh with your interlaced fingers. Foot is flexed. Ideally, both feet are flexed. The right foot is going to be more important here. And just gently drawing in. Sometimes it's really nice to rock from side to side. Sometimes it's nice to just work in stillness. Let your tailbone be nice and heavy. And if you find that it's really curling up away from the ground, go ahead and put a little low cushion underneath your bum and just see if that helps make this feel more like a hip opening that you're struggling with a little bit less. Another little option is to put the strap around your thigh. You can stay right here or release your hands, ease up a little, and then cross the legs at the thighs. Allow the heels to drop down to either side and then hold whatever is accessible for you. So some people hold the feet, some people the shins, some people hold the close or far knee. All of those are good options, just whatever feels accessible. You can kind of snuggle into a little bit of a different hip opening, which is called supine gomukhasana. For this one, I find toes can be pointed. You don't have to have your feet flexed. Just keep a little bit of life in the feet. And sometimes when my lower back is really bugging me, this one actually helps so much. Really nice. Okay, when this feels complete for you, you can come into happy baby. So allowing the knees to widen apart. And you could even just hold it like that, or you could take the soles of the feet up to the sky. Release the legs. When you're ready, give them a little wobble. And then take the left ankle to the right thigh and come in to thread the needle on the second side. Holding on to the back of the thigh if that feels appropriate. Keeping the foot flexed. And you can experiment with a couple of things. So one is having the blade of your foot on your thigh versus having your ankle on your thigh. That's going to be a little bit of a different sensation there. So feel free to play around a little bit with kind of the width or narrowness of the little window that you're making and see where the spot is that feels most right for you today. Keep your left foot flexed. Right foot can be flexed too. Sometimes that's just like a little nice neural mirror. Maybe you're rocking, maybe you're still. I always find this side's a bit tighter for me. Awesome. And if this is working for you, you can just stay right here. Otherwise, you can release your hands, ease up a bit, and then cross the thighs so that they're connecting at the knees. The heels kind of drop down. And then hold maybe your feet, your shins, or your knees, just whatever feels most right for you. And again, you can have the toes pointed. I find flexed, it just actually doesn't work as well as when my toes are a bit pointed. There might be some sort of snuggling or wiggling or rocking a bit from side to side, just kind of finding that stretch in the spot where you want it and need it. Awesome. And when that feels complete for you, again, you can widen the knees apart towards happy baby. This is called tadpole pose when you're just holding the knees wide. That's great. Otherwise, you can actually grab the feet. And again, a little rocking side to side might feel really nice for you here as well. You can release your legs up to the sky. Once again, give them a little shake. Excuse me. And then place your feet on the mat about mat's distance apart. Open up your arms and take your knees over to the right side. So it's a nice wide open twist. You can place your right foot on your left thigh if you'd like, just adding a little bit more weight to that twist and look to the left. If that bothers your knee at all, just skip that part. And then gently release your foot, come through center, and go ahead and take that open twist on the second side. So the knees go to the left. You might put the left foot on the right thigh, and you can look to the right. Gently let that go and give your knees a little rock from side to side. And I'm going to give you an option before Shavasana. So there's a chest opener that I'd like to do. At the beginning, Elaine was mentioning the smoke and just wanting to do a little bit of chest opening for the air quality. So option one, you can do a passive fish pose. You can lay back over a block or a bolster. You guys basically know how to do that. Otherwise, we'll take fish, which is a little bit more of an active pose. And it's one of my favorites for opening the upper chest and throat. So you're already laying on the mat if you want to take this more active one with me. You're gonna sit on your hands, thumbs touch, palms face down. Okay, squeeze the arms a little bit together, and I'm sitting on my forearms, so my palms are down just below my bum. Extending the legs, squeezing them together, and then press into the elbows, lift the chest, and come lightly onto the crown of the head. Not a lot of weight on the head. The elbows are doing most of the work. You can allow your mouth to open. You can even do lion's breath, sticking the tongue out, which is really nice for releasing, cleansing the lungs. When you're ready to come out of fish, you can just gently release your head down, release your arms, and I'm usually quite ready for Shavasana from there, just sort of flopping out. If you're laying back over a block or a bolster, just enjoy that as long as you'd like. You can hold that a bit longer. It can even be your Shavasana if it feels really comfortable. And then just move into your rest when you're ready, if you're choosing to move. You might want to take a deep breath. There might be some fidgets or some movements that you need to prepare for your Shavasana. And then when you're ready to rest, all you need to do is receive and just be. And take a moment to notice how you're feeling. If you need more time here, take as much time as you want and have. If you feel ready to make your way out of it, you can deepen your breath and start to bring some small intuitive movements to your body. Maybe you'd like to stretch, draw your knees in, and roll over to one side. Make your way to a nice comfortable seat with your hands together at your heart or over top or on your belly, whatever feels right. And take a nice deep breath, bowing your head gently to your hands, taking a moment to honor and acknowledge whatever it took for you to get here to your practice today. Honor and acknowledge the long and complex lineage of teachers that is with us in our practice. Honoring the sacredness of the land and honoring each other. thank you for sharing this practice with me today.